Hey there, this video is part 2 of our in-depth Genji guide. In the first video we covered mechanical skills and combos, so be sure to check it out if you haven't already. Click the card right now. In this guide we're going to see how he interacts with other heroes in the team environment. Let's get started. Hello guys and welcome to the dojo. The previous guide covered how to play Genji's abilities and how to generally be a better Genji player mechanically. Fortunately, Overwatch is a lot more complex than just learning the basics of a hero. You need to be aware of how to use him in different situations, on different maps, and with different teammates and enemies. Therefore, this guy's going to cover Genji's basics in depth regarding synergies and teamwork. Let's get slashing. Before we dive deep, just a quick heads up. We cannot tell you where to go at any given time, obviously, but hopefully some of these tips will help you to understand more of the complexities of Genji's positioning and how it relates to different heroes. One of Genji's biggest weaknesses is fighting at long range. Oftentimes, on offense or King of the Hill maps, you'll have to cross long distances or approach enemies while in their line of sight in order to get close enough to be effective. Genji is at a huge disadvantage while in the open at long distance, as most of the time there'll always be someone on the enemy team that can easily outdamage you, while your damage is random usually. Now let's discuss flanking. While Genji is a flanking hero, a lot of people take that term flanking a bit too literally, especially at lower ranks. You'll see Genji players trying to go on long, extravagant flank routes, or simply take the long way to get places. The goal for these players is to get in the backline, where they tend to die quickly due to be focused down by the enemy team. In most situations, you're better off grouping up with your team and pushing in together. Use Genji's mobility to safely get close to the enemy, not to get halfway around the map to use Dragon Blade only to be killed by a pro Zenyatta waiting for you. A very common mistake for new Genji players is trying to take on too much by themselves. Don't try to initiate fights on your own. As Genji himself put it, you don't have to fight on your own.
But on my journey, I have learned another lesson. You do not have to fight alone!
That's right. Leverage your team's strengths and stop thinking that you can solo carry any game. You'll have a lot more fun, and your win percentage may go up quite a bit if you start working with your allies. This is a Genji guide after all, so it seems fitting to start with healer synergies.
Stick to the plan, and if you get into trouble, I'll bail you out.
Let's start with Ana with a hands-on example. Say that you're defending on the first choke on Dorado. If you have an Ana on your team, be sure to check where she's positioned before the match starts. A common place for the rest of your team is to set up on the high ground here. Before engaging your enemy, visualize your Ana's line of sight. If you suddenly needed healing, could she heal you from where you are? If not, are you going to be able to get to where she can heal you quickly enough? If not, you'll have to save your dash cooldown so you have a way to escape. Also, if a teammate's fighting with you, remember that they can actually block your Ana's shots from reaching you. You want to make sure that you're an easy target for your Ana to hit. This doesn't mean you should stop moving, but don't weave in and out of teammates and enemies if you're trying to get healed. This generally applies to all healers you're trying to get help from. Line of sight is a really important concept in Overwatch, and you need to keep it in mind. If you want to know more about the topic, click the card right now. Alright, to clarify, it's fine to move out of your healer's line of sight. Oftentimes you'll have to in order to do your job. Just be aware of when you do and have a plan to get back into it. You also need to pay attention to where your Ana is and if she changes positions. Obviously, this is hard to keep track of while you're in a fight, but with some practice, you'll get the hang of it. Now let's go over Ana's Nano Boost. Nano Boost in Dragon Blade is a very powerful combo that has a ton of damage potential. In our last video, we covered how to use Dragon Blade without Nano. Everything we said there still applies to Nano Blade except for the combo. Nano Boost increases your damage by 50%, meaning that a slash from Genji's sword now does 180 damage. This means that the combo for Nano Blade on a 200 HP target is now just a slash and dash. How do we use the Nano Blade combo? Typically, Genji players like to dash into the air before activating Dragon Blade. We don't suggest doing this unless you're getting Nano Boosted. If you and Ana want to use Nano Blade, it's up to you to work out how to get it. If you plan on dashing into the air, make sure that your Ana will be able to see you, and tell her before you do it. Once in the air, activate Dragon Blade and wait for Nano. When you get it, dash down onto the enemy team and wreak havoc. You can get boosted in safety and then go into enemy team. It really just depends on the situation, but make sure that you keep line of sight in mind while slashing and dashing.
It is good to fight alongside one of my brightest pupils.
The next one is Zenyatta. Much like Ana, Zenyatta can heal from a long distance but also needs line of sight to put his Harmony Orb on you. The orb heals 30 health per second. but requires you to stay in line of sight of Zenyatta or it will drop after 3 seconds. While having the orb on you does mean that you can play more aggressively, keep in mind that he can take it away to heal another teammate once you're fully healed. Genji and Zenyatta's main synergy is actually in the Discord orb. The orb causes its victim to take 30% more damage when attacked. If you have a Zen on your team, your new job is to take out the discorded enemy. A good Zenyatta will know target priority and discord the healers and main DPS first. Once they are discorded, your task is to get in there and finish them off. This isn't always the case, however. For example, if an enemy Mercy is hiding, your Zen won't be able to discord her. As your game sense develops, you'll be able to read situations more clearly and know who to target first. Be sure to communicate with your Zen and ask him to call out his discords if he isn't.
I'm not a miracle worker. Well, not always.
While Mercy is much more mobile than Ana and Zen, you also need to be close to her in order to be healed. A good Mercy player will usually hang back behind your tanks and won't risk getting out of position to heal you. In a sticky situation, be aware of where your tanks are and keep a dash up so that you can get within healing range of your Mercy. Unless you have a long-range healer on your team too, you should consider playing closer to your team. You can still be very effective, but unless you have a diving buddy, you should probably play a more patient Genji. You can still apply pressure to an enemy team and use openings to dash in, secure a kill, and quickly dash out. Generally be a bit less aggressive if you only have one healer, as you may go down quickly without support.
Whoa, nothing's gonna stop me!
Lucio is definitely the most mobile hero in our lineup, but you also have to be close to him in order to be healed. On offense, you'll usually have to move away from a fight and find him in order to be healed up. On defense, however, Lucio can be your best friend during a team fight. His passive healing can allow you to be more aggressive as long as you stay close to him. Remember that Lucio's heal is slow and steady, and kind of more close to having armor or a shield matrix than the other healers. Lucio's also really useful if you're being harassed with low health. He can help you by booping the aggressor away while healing you up. Another important thing about him is how to use the speed aura. A lot of Genjis dash first and then walk. When you have a Lucio, it's important to use the whole effect of the amp it up speed, and only dash after it's done. This way you can cover a lot more space, which is critical if you want to go ahead of your team and deflect the initial shots made by the enemy. Not only can you farm a lot of ult with some good deflects, you can also deny enemy ult charge this way. Now that you know how to stay healed up, let's go over some of Genji's battlefield synergies and how to take advantage of them. The following heroes are good in creating space for you and helping you to win your encounters and secure kills.
Genji, this is just like old times.
Winston is usually thought of as a counter when it comes to Genji, but he also makes a great dive partner. His Tesla cannon can make short work of the Sim and Torp turrets Genji struggles with, and his 600 HP shield provides a temporary retreat. Learn how to use the shield to mitigate damage amidst the enemy, and you can freely harass them without being exposed. Winston's large health pool and hitbox can also be used for cover. Use his massive body to block shots. When diving, communicate with your Winston and try to single out enemies one by one. Keep in mind that Winston's jump ability is on a 5-second cooldown, so you may have to wait for him before dashing onto the next enemy. The general strategy is to let the Winston go in and jump, and just walk towards the enemy, sending shurikens to the target Winston is focusing. This way you can keep your dash and be able to secure the kill for the duo, and then safely get back to the team without exposing yourself.
How do I trust a man who is half machine?
You probably won't be diving into the enemy backline with Zarya, but you can still support each other. If you have a Zarya on your team, consider not spending as much time in the enemy backline. Instead, try and stay with your Zarya most of the time. A Zarya bubble can help close the large gaps between you and the enemy without having to use any of your cooldowns, as well as giving her some nice charge. A good Zarya player will try and bubble teammates currently taking damage. Peeking into the enemy's line of sight while you're bubbled can seriously build up her charge, getting her ultimate sooner. Just be sure to confirm with your Zarya that you're going to get bubbled before going into the open. Another good strategy is to wait after a Zarya bubble wears off and then reflect at an enemy. This is especially effective because enemies should stop firing at you once they realize you're bubbled. Then they'll wait until after your bubble goes down to start firing at you again. If you reflect then, chances are it'll be much more damage than usual, thus charging your ultimate. Speaking of ultimates, Dragon Blade is by far one of the best combos with the Zarya graph. Because Dragon Blade is classified as a melee attack, it cannot be blocked by shields, unlike Pharah and Diva's ultimates. While Dragon Blading into a Zarya grab, use dash off cooldown. Look at the ground below the ground to make sure that you don't dash out of the blade's reach by mistake. Aside from that, just slash. It's also important to call out before you ult. This way the Zarya can protect you from being shut down.
So many targets, so little time.
With a little bit of communication and teamwork, Genji and Sombra can be an extremely effective team. Much like Zenyatta's Discord orb, when you see someone hacked, focus them down. Take an enemy Mercy for example. Usually, Mercy is difficult for Genji to kill because of her guardian angel. If you and the Sombra decide to target her, she can hack the Mercy, allowing you to finish her off quickly. Keep in mind though that the Sombra hack only lasts for 6 seconds, so make sure to have a backup plan before attacking, just in case it wears off before you secure the kill. Sombra's EMP and Dragon Blade is one of the most powerful ult combos in the game. Not only does it eliminate most threats to an ulting Genji, it also keeps most characters from getting away. But remember, the enemy team may still have some heroes that aren't hacked, so you still need to be careful.
The world could always use more heroes.
Tracer can also be an awesome diving buddy for Genji. Single out enemies and attack them from different directions. Between the crossfire and high mobility of you two, the enemy will have a difficult time focusing on one of you at a time. Be sure to let your Tracer know if you need to back off to get healed. This needs a high level of communication but can be really strong if combined with Winston for a full dive. Okay, so Genji is really strong against certain heroes, but unfortunately he does have a lot of counters. If you're dominating the enemy's backline, it's only a matter of time until someone will try to swap to counter you. At that point, it's up to you to decide if you're being countered too hard and need to swap. In most cases, simply changing your playstyle a bit can help you from dying to an enemy Winston. But if you're unable to keep doing your job as a flanker DPS, you may want to swap to a more effective character. At the top of our list, we have the two turret builders. Torbjorn and Symmetra's turrets are very difficult for Genji to destroy on his own. The key to playing against it is working with your team to take down the turrets before you dive into the enemy. In some cases, if you know where the turrets are, you can still get some kills by staying out of their range or line of sight. If you're fighting a Torb, try to lure him out of the line of sight of his turret. It will make him an easy kill. In Symmetra's case, you should always play out of her reach. Her beam is very clingy and can stay stuck to you long enough to secure a kill even after you dash away. The turrets also slow you down, so never be the first to arrive in the battle if you know there's a sim in the enemy team. Beam heroes refers to characters with weapons Genji can't reflect. All of them also have abilities that allows them to retreat, making them even more difficult for Genji to kill. The main way to play around these heroes is to make sure that your dash is always off cooldown and staying close to the rest of your team. Most of the time you won't be able to change your playstyle too much to deal with a single beam enemy, but if you think that you'd be more effective by swapping to another hero, you probably should. Next up, we have long-range heroes such as Widowmaker and Pharah. While these heroes aren't exactly counters to Genji, they can be very strong against him. However, Genji can also be very strong against them. Against Pharah, try to avoid being singled out by her. If you can fight her in a smaller confined space, you have a huge advantage. If she's up in the air, just use cover to avoid her or stay behind a tank. If you're fighting against a Widow, try and find her as quickly as you can. As a flanker, it's your job to kill the Widow. Use cover and flanking rush to stay out of her line of sight while you approach her. Remember to never dash straight at a Widow if she can see you. You'll just end up dead. And to finish off our list of counters, we have Sombra. Her hack ability rivals Symmetra's beam as Genji's hardest counter. If you find yourself hacked, you should almost always retreat. Don't try to dive into the enemy's backline while Sombra is with them. If she hacks you, you've lost your main route of escape and will usually end up dead. If there is a Sombra in your match, always plan on encountering her before you engage with the enemy. Have a plan to get to safety, whether that's staying near your team until Sombra is dead or making sure that you can escape to high ground using wall climb. Now let's get into some of the easier targets for Genji and how to eliminate them. Obviously, there are many ways to go about doing this, and these particular strategies won't always work in every situation. For Genji, killing Bastion is all about reflect. Due to Bastion's wide spread, you want to get as close as you can before you reflect. It's ideal that you take him by surprise, but you can still easily win the fight without it. If Bastion stops shooting you while you're reflecting, dash right behind him to enter reflect early. Continuously right-click into him and double jump back and forth over him. That's it. For Hanzo, avoid fighting in confined spaces. Even with your reflect up, Hanzo can still shoot a scatter arrow at the floor. Because Reflect only protects the 180 degrees directly in front of you, you can still take the damage from his arrows ricocheting off the walls. While fighting a Hanzo, you may want to stop double jumping as it makes you more predictable while falling. If you try and reflect an arrow and Hanzo doesn't shoot, don't dash into him. Instead, flick dash to cover and disengage. This one's pretty simple. Just hit Junkrat with a reflected bomb and finish him off with a right-click dash combo. Remember to lead your reflect and account for the arc of the grenade. Make sure you open the fight with damage to him either by your basic attacks or reflecting his stuff and you should be good. There are only two things you really need to look out for while fighting a Junkrat: his concussive mine and his trap. The concussive mine can do up to 100 damage on direct hit. It can be reflected. As for the trap, just watch where you're going. Fighting a McCree at close range is a mind game. If you can bait out his flashbang and reflect it, you can easily finish the McCree with a right-click melee combo. But if he manages to flashbang you, you're as good as dead. It's very important to remember that while you're reflecting, you can still be flashbanged if the McCree throws it at your feet or near you. For this reason, you either want to get as close to the McCree as possible or try to stay just out of his flashbang distance. As always, avoid double jumping while fighting a hit scan and dodge instead. This matchup should be easy if you have experience in it. Killing an Orisa is very similar to killing a Bastion. You can dash right behind her shield and right in front of her to get a ton of free reflected damage, or just get behind her and hold right click. Do note that Orisa's Graviton Ball can cancel your dash and wall climb, but that's the only thing that you really have to look out for while fighting an Orisa. Get behind the enemy Rein's shield and start poking away. Eventually he'll have to move back or drop his shield, thus exposing his team. Genji can also reflect Rein's Fire Strike, and is a great way to build ultimate as Genji and to deny the main source of Rein's ultimate charge. The fight against an enemy Roadhog completely revolves around his hook. When Roadhog uses his hook, you actually have enough time to react with reflect or dodge. This takes a little bit of practice to perfect, but it's well worth it. It's also very helpful to know that your reflect and Roadhog's hook have the same cooldown time. That means that if you deflect an incoming hook, you now know as soon as the Roadhog has the hook again. And by that time, you'll also have reflect off cooldown again. While Roadhog's hook is on cooldown, move in closer and go for headshots using your right click. As he gets closer to having hook again, back up a bit and give yourself more time to react. Be sure to double jump throughout this entire fight, as it makes it harder for Roadhog to hit you. Most of the time, because of Roadhog's large health pool and healing ability, you're going to need help taking him down. Ask your team to focus him, and let them know if his hook is on cooldown, but you can still use him as an ultimate battery. As a flanker DPS, if there's an enemy Widow, it's your job to take her out. You can always try the extremely satisfying route of trying to reflect a headshot at her, but most of the time this is an unnecessary risk. Instead, get close to her while avoiding her line of sight. Oftentimes, if someone is on high ground, they usually have a blind spot directly underneath them. This is particularly true with a scoped Widow. Getting to this blind spot and wall climbing up to her can be an easy way to get close on a Widow. An enemy Zenyatta can either be an easy or very difficult kill for Genji. The key to making it easy is to take him by surprise. A quick flank and the usual 200 HP combo can easily take care of him. However, it's not always as simple as that. If you find yourself in a fight with a Zen, pay very close attention to his discord and charge up as you can go down very quickly. Withdraw, come from a different angle, and burst him down quickly instead of staying in prolonged fights. Alright guys, that concludes our basic Genji guides. We really hope that you enjoyed it and learned something new. As usual, if you guys liked it, please like, favorite, comment, share, and subscribe if you have not already. Feel free to join our Discord and remember that you can always get coached on our Patreon. Alright guys, we'll see you guys in the next episode.